Hey, what's up? Hello, it's Katie here. Welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to talk about all the books that I read in the month of June. I read 20 books. Hold please, I forgot to turn off my air conditioner. How rude. But listen, I live in the South and it's freaking hot in here, so we need to make this quick. We're going to talk about the 20 books that I read in June. And honestly, I'm astonished that I got 20 books read because one, I've been reading House of Leaves for a week basically, and I'm only halfway through it. I'm having a time. I'm having a time. I'm gonna tell you. Oh my god. Okay. Whoo. Anyway, also I am well into my Darby, Donna, and Harvey from Suits fan fiction era. I am living, I'm laughing, and you can bet your ass I'm loving. I have read so much fan fiction. I can't. It's astronomical. Like if fan fiction were books. I've read so much and I'm loving it. I'm not upset. I'm not upset at myself. I am living, I'm laughing, and having a great time. But anyway, I finished 20 books, absolutely shook. But what I'm going to do, I've never done this before, is I'm going to actually, instead of going by when I read them, which is what I've always done, I'm going to go from like least to best. And I'm going to start out with the ones that I DNF'd, but there's a couple books I DNF'd that I did not include in my Goodreads list, and I did not include in this list. But these 3 books that I DNF'd are books that I got so far into them, or at least far enough into them, that I knew I wasn't going to like it, and I felt comfortable and confident in giving at least a little bit of an opinion or counting it toward my Goodreads goal because I read so much of it. So the first of which is going to be Breathless. This one was the worst because I felt nothing about this book. This is Breathless by Amy McCulloch. I did not finish it. I got this one, I think I read the least of. I think I read like 37% of it. And when I tell you I read 37% and like nothing was happening, and I just did not give a single shit. It's just some people on an icy mountain going on this tundra journey, and I didn't give a shit. Anyway, that one was a DNF. Did not give a single shit. And then number 2, I feel like this is going to hurt people's feelings. Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Susan Lynn Tan. I got like 47% of the way into this book. And I didn't give a shit. I didn't give a shit. I literally was reading this like, why does everybody love this book so much? Like, I don't understand. And there was a couple people's reviews I was watching that was like, oh, after the halfway mark, I was like, I can't even wait an extra 3% for this to get good because the audiobook is so long. It's so long. And I was like, I've been listening to this book for like 6 hours or something. And I was like, I don't like it. I don't like it. I wish I knew what y'all knew. Like, I wish I knew what you knew and that you love it because I love that for you. But I unfortunately didn't like it. And the third book that I DNF'd is Scandalous by LJ Shin. Now, this is the third book in the Villains, is it called? Something like that. I don't know. But I loved Vicious and I loved Ruckus, but Scandalous was like not it. It is not it. It's like an age gap romance, but like it wasn't spicy. It wasn't like, oh my God, you're too old for me. Oh my God, you're too young for me. And then it was like his competitor's daughter, which in my opinion was going to be hot, but it wasn't. It was just basic. And they were just boring. I didn't care. And I actually DNF'd this one at 71%. So like I was well and truly into the home run era, but I realized I set the book down, went and did something else, and then came back and realized I didn't care how the book was going to end. I didn't care to find out. I didn't even Google it. Like, I just did not give a shit. So I DNF'd it, and I'm better for it. Then we're going to move on to 2 stars. The first one I have is The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek by Kim Michelle Richardson. This has really good ratings on Goodreads and has a lot of ratings. And I'm kind of wondering, like, what I was getting out of it that all these other women were not getting out of it. Because, one, it was okay. Like, it was frankly pretty boring to me. But then also, there's characters in this book, like, especially the main character, who have blue skin. And it's like, oh, they're treated even worse than Black people. And, like, it just, I'm not even going to go into it. It just felt very cringy and very, like, a white woman being racist. Because this one, oh yeah, she's white. She's blonde and white. She's blonde and white. Kim Michelle Richardson. She lives in Kentucky. It felt racist. I'm sorry. I wanted to be like you. I wanted to be like you, boy. But I'm not. The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. I don't get it. I'm sorry. So many of my friends love this book. I don't get it. I don't understand. And I read half this book physically and then listened to the other half. So I got both experiences, so you can't blame it on one of those. But like, okay, listen, this is following this guy named Dev and this guy named Charlie. And it's basically like a show like The Bachelor. It's this dating reality show. And Charlie's the main character. And then Dev is the one who's supposed to manage the talent. But then the more Dev tries to make Charlie attractive to the women, the more they fall in love. Okay, cool, bet. Love the synopsis. But like, Charlie is a bumbling buffoon. He's a caricature. Like, it goes so far over him being awkward. It goes so far over, like, OCD, anxiety. It goes so far over that to being, like, a caricature of these symptoms. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? And then I also don't like how it ended, and, like, we didn't actually get to see what happened. It was just, like, stay tuned. But I was like, stay tuned for what? Is there going to be a sequel? Like, I don't understand. Anyway, I give it 2 stars. I wish I'd loved it. I hyped it up, and I didn't like it. Now we have one 2.5 star, and it's The Violence by Delilah L. Dawson, I think. Delilah L. Dawson. I love this cover. I love the premise, but it was one of those things like cool concept, not well executed kind of vibe, you know what I'm saying? So this is supposed to be like a little while after the eradication of COVID. And then a new virus is spreading across the nation, all right? And it's basically a virus that's carried by mosquitoes, so it's very prevalent in the South, which is like a huge Florida joke throughout the book, which like I understand, but like you're leaning into it a little bit too far, Delilah. You know what I'm saying? Like you're pressing that meme button a little too hard, sis. Okay, and I'm from Florida, so I wish I would have loved it, but I was like, you're being a little annoying. Anyway, this virus is spread by mosquitoes, and it is called The Violence, and when it infects you, you will randomly have bouts of severe violence where like whoever it is that you're seeing, you have to kill them. And this is spreading across the nation, and it's told similarly to the way that like, you know, it's told. But the thing is, we're following 3 generations of women who are being affected by the violence, but then also manipulating the experience of the violence to get away from abusive men in their lives. And that sounds well and great, but like, great concept, poor execution. Like there's so many things in this book that should have been done better, that should have not happened at all. Like there's so much of this book that should not have been written. Like the whole, like there's this whole thing where they basically have like a Glow, like you remember that Netflix show Glow? They talk about that and I'm like, that show's already been canceled for like a while. Like you're already irrelevant. But anyway, it's like all these people that have the violence coming together to like wrestle each other to in a reality show to make money. And I'm like, what? Why are we taking this super insane plague that causes people to kill people, which is a great concept, and then we're taking it to MTV? What are you talking about? Oh, what are you talking about? Anyway, there's things I liked about it, but honestly, it was not well done necessarily, so I gave it 2.5 stars. I'm not gonna lie to you. I gave this 3 stars. But I don't want to tell you what it's about. It's Don't Tell a Soul by Kirsten Miller. Beautiful cover. I just don't even feel like trying to remember what this book is about. I know it was good, but it was one of those things where I read it and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I just moved on because it was good, but it was YA. And it's something where like, if I was in like a big YA mood, or if I was like in the YA genre, I would have been shook by this book because it's about ghosts. It's about ghosts and shit. But then like, okay, here's the thing. Here's one thing where I was like, There's a lot of talk of like Adderall in this book, but like Adderall is like an enemy, but it didn't seem like well thought out. It made it seem like Adderall was like heroin. And I was like, I just don't think that's true. Anyway, it was good. It was fine. I wouldn't suggest you not read it. Like, I think it's good. I think people should read it, but I just don't really care. So I'm going to move on. And then we have Louisiana Longshot by Jana DeLeon. This is a series that Olivia loves and my mom also loves. And there's like, I swear like 27 books in this series and my mom's read all of them. And I'm like, what? But this was sent to me so lovingly. I was so excited about this. And then I bought the audiobook, and the audiobook is good. It's very Southern. It's a cozy mystery. So basically we're following a CIA assassin called Fortune Redding. And because of a CIA leak, her identity has been leaked and now there's a price on her head. So in order to lay low, they send her to like anonymously live in this town called Oh my God, something, oh, Sinful Louisiana. I was like, it was something so cute. In Sinful Louisiana. Okay, so she's there to live this double life, you know, until things die down. But when she gets there, she hasn't even unpacked her suitcase before a dog has unearthed bones in her backyard. And she's like, does this shit just follow me around? Like, I'm confused. And then she gets in cahoots with these two old, like, seemingly just nice and cute old ladies who really have a bunch of secrets in their past that are arguably even crazier than Fortune's secrets in her past. And then they kind of like gang up and they're trying to like solve this crime, but it's easy for them because it's just two old ladies and they're like, nobody even cares, nobody even notices us. Okay, there's a motorcycle outside and hello. Bad boy energy, that's what I'm talking about. Like this book. This, I liked it. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would, but I liked it. I really liked some shit that happened in the end. And honestly, if these were on Libby, I would probably continue in the series. But since they're not, like, I'm not going to use an Audible credit on it. So I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was fun. It was fast. It was fresh. But I probably won't continue. Okay, now we have a Darby. A little Darby moment. We have Practice Makes Perfect by Julie James. Okay, so this was sent to me by Erin and said, people say that this has Suits vibes. And while I do not think it has Darby vibes, it definitely has Suits vibes. Like, if you like that environment, if you love watching a law firm kind of procedural, or love Suits, if you love like Boston Legal, The Good Wife, anything like that, then you'll love this book. It definitely has that setting. And I did feel like the author, like, did a really good job of talking about the law, and like if the things she was talking about weren't real, I didn't notice. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, we're following 2 characters, JD. It was JD, right? Okay, good. I was like, I swear to God, if it's not JD, I'm gonna be embarrassed. JD and Peyton, and they are 2 lawyers at this firm that are working and competing against each other to become partner. Now, that's all well and good. They have their banter. Everybody thinks they hate each other. Okay, cool. But then the firm decides that they need to team up to work on a case together. And they've never done that before. Now, they're very different when it comes to like how they go about being a lawyer. And when they're working together, at first they're bickering and they don't get along, but then they kind of start to realize that their differences are benefits to their relationship and that they can kind of work better off of each other. And it's like a rivals to lovers. It's not enemies to lovers because they're not enemies and they like each other, but they're rivals. So it's like kind of trying to like put aside that rivalry. And this is what I wanted the Hating Game to give. I mean, I love the Hating Game, don't get me wrong, but like I really enjoyed this. Now I gave it 3 stars, where like honestly now I'm sitting here going, it's 3.5 stars. Now I want to bump it up. I don't know. I guess I'll keep it at 3, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was really cute. The only reason, actually, no, now I remember why I didn't give it 3.5. It was because JD, while in every other aspect of the book, was such a great guy and was so cool. There's moments, just to further the plot, where he is just blatantly misogynistic. And it's not like, oh, just kind of. No, I mean like blatantly misogynistic. Like, oh, well, why would a woman ever be given that? And I'm like, and it's just there to further the plot of Peyton being overtly feminist. But I'm like, he didn't have to have him say that. It could have been somebody else. Like, the love interest? Disgusting. Anyway, I enjoyed it except for that. And then I physically read I Shall Awaken by Katerina Sardica. Now, this was just recently, like, this month or last month maybe, was translated from Czech. So this is a recently translated work. This is a young adult / new adult horror, but it's like a kind of like a dark grimoire kind of horror. So this is about how 12 years ago on the winter solstice, 4 kids disappeared without a trace. At nap time, they were in kindergarten, they disappeared. Now, 12 years later on the winter solstice, 3 of them reappear just wandering around the woods with absolutely no memory of what happened to them. Now, winter solstice is taking place within 12 days, and as those 12 days are ticking down, the wall between the underworld and our world is thinning, and they know that in order to save the 4th kid that went missing, which for some reason didn't come back with them, they only have a limited amount of time. So they're trying to regain their memories. They're trying to deal with like their families having them back, the town wondering what happened, and like dealing with all of that, and dealing with like the relationship that they have with each other since they've been in this other world this whole time but don't remember it, and like why they feel comfortable around each other and all of these things. And then kind of like the hatred that spawns between like the other kids that were in nap time that like didn't get got but they did. And I really enjoyed it. I'm giving it 3 stars. I thought it was good, and I definitely really liked that there were parts of this book, and this is where I'm like, it's not an American story, but like there were parts in the story where if it was an American book, it would have like cut to black. It would have just cut the chapter off and moved on. But in this book, it would be like literally there's a part where like somebody like looks under the bed, and it's like at the very end, and you're like, oh yeah, looks under the bed, there's nothing there. Looks under the bed, oh no, there's something there, bitch. There's something there. And I was like, it's fucking scary. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I won't say I loved it, but I really liked it. My only 4-star, which honestly would probably be a little bit more of like a 3.75, would be Iron Widow. I love this cover, and honestly, like, the only thing that kind of bumped it down was that I'm not super in the fantasy mood, and then also, like, it was YA, but, like, this book is good, okay? Like, I'm not in fantasy mood, and I'm not in the YA mood, but this book is good. It is good. Okay, never mind, I take that back. It's 4 stars. Okay. This is basically set, like, I believe in space. I don't think it's like, yeah, it's set in space. Okay. And the enemy are these giant aliens, and the only way to defeat them is with these like huge robot structures that are powered by one boy and one girl that have the power of chi. So basically what it is, it's so annoying. Like if you're a girl and you read this book, you're just gonna be like the entire time, because the girl is just there to funnel her chi into the boy so that he can fight. Why? Because their government is misogynistic, bullshit, capitalism, disgusting. Ew, gross, sick, nasty. It's disgusting. So basically, the girl funnels all her freaking energy into this guy, and then she dies so that he can play robots and aliens. Sickening, disgusting. So here comes, enter our main character, okay? Now, her sister has recently died from one of these attacks, and she is hell-bent on finding the boy who killed her and killing him. Now, to do that, she has to basically pose as one of these prospects in this war. Now, when she goes into battle to like train to become one of these people that can get close enough to this guy, what happens is that her power ends up being stronger than the boy that she's paired with, which is not supposed to happen. They set it up, the whole system is set up so the girl's always a little bit weaker than the boy. So it doesn't look like it's a bad thing, but it is. So she actually ends up being stronger than him, and he is the one that dies, and she's the one that fights. Now, that is not done. That's not a thing. And it kind of throws the entire plot and the entire rule book on its head, and then it flips to her wanting to like take down this misogynistic system that the pilots have and trying to save a bunch of girls from being sacrificed. And I really enjoyed it, and I'm actually think I might pick up the sequel and reread the first one. I don't know, it's good. Shockingly, I have quite a few 5 stars from this month, and I'm going to start out not with what I would consider to be lower of a 5-star than any of the other ones, but because it's a reread, I'm just going to throw it in here, and that's The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. Now, the first time I read this is a book you have to read more than once, because the first time you read it, you're just going to be shocked. Like, what am I reading? And then also I'll say you have to read the author's note in the back to really understand like what's going on and why it matters that this book was written. So basically, I'm going to give a very vague synopsis, which is what it gives you. So we are set in a boarded up house on a dead end street that's funneled around by the woods. So it's like in the middle of nowhere in the suburb, basically. And it's a family of 3. Now we have a teenage daughter who is never allowed out of the house. Not after last time. And then we have a very sad man who just sits there trying to ignore the gaps in his memory. And then we also follow, in the perspective of, a cat who just loves napping and reading the Bible. Okay, well here's the thing. A big secret binds them together. This very deep, dark secret binds them all together. Now when a new neighbor moves in next door, which they have not had a neighbor in a very long time, new neighbor moves in next door, and it turns out that maybe the things that are buried in the backyard are coming up and might come for all of them in this house, even the woman next door. Now, I can't really talk a lot about this book because everything is a spoil, basically. But I'm so glad this book exists. I think that Catriona Ward really tried. I think that she really, like the subject matter that's going on in this book, I feel like did a very good job of trying to understand and trying to bring awareness. And I cried reading this book. It's fucking sad. There were so many points where like my jaw was on the floor. I absolutely loved it. I went through and I highlighted. I don't understand why I didn't annotate why I didn't tab, to be honest, but I really liked it and I would definitely suggest the audiobook. It's so hard to rank these 5-star books because I feel like they're in so many random genres and I'm like, oh my God, but like, if this is a 5-star mystery, well, this is a 5-star horror, well, this is a 5-star romance. Like, it's hard, but I'm trying my best. Number 4 is going to be Just Like Mother by Anne Heltzel. This cover is terrifying, for starters, but I absolutely love this. And I'm pretty sure that I'm like the person that's rated it the highest out of all of my friends, but I loved it. Now, something I've heard my friends say is that it's not shocking that it's kind of predictable, but I did not care about that at all. My jaw was still on the floor reading this because it's so unsettling. And the way that Anne writes this, like this unsettling, like, no way, but also like way, because these women absolutely exist. They just haven't found a name to call themselves. Okay, this is about, we follow our main character Maeve and her cousin Andrea. When they were very young, they grew up in a cult where all the women were called Mother. So it was like, oh, Mother with the missing tooth, Mother with the red hair. And what they believed in was that women were basically put on this earth with the divine ability to have children. And that was what they were good for. And that's all they should live their life to do, is to have children and raise children. And if you couldn't have children, find a way to get them. And if you don't want children, you're against God, like, get out of here kind of thing. So they have like a Mother Teresa or like a Mother Supreme, basically. And one day, Maeve does something that you'll find out. Maeve does something that kind of uproots this cult and makes them publicly acknowledgeable. And then we go to 2 decades later when Maeve, as an adult, is trying to get her life together. And then she's visited by her cousin Andrea after all this time. And she thinks like, oh my God, I'm like reconnecting to my family. No. Andrea has plans. Plans Maeve did not see coming. But Andrea ain't out here fucking around, y'all. I loved it. And I definitely think, literally, this cult, the Mothers, this shit's real. Do you know how many women I've heard talk about stuff like this? Like, anyway, whatever, 5 stars. Number 3 is All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. I adored this book. I was so shocked at how much I ended up liking it. And also, I want to tell you, I like this cover so much more than whatever the fuck they're doing right now with like the purple and like the freaking daisy or whatever on it. No, miss me with that. I would much rather have this like weird make-out rainy scene. It makes more sense to the book than a random flower. That's all I'm saying. Also, the random flower makes it seem like the book is going to be happy, and oh my God, no. No, Colleen Hoover does not know how to write happy. She only knows how to break your heart. And like, oh my God, this book is so sad. Okay. Also, Graham in this book, the husband, Graham, iconic man. Literally an iconic man. He was, if you watch my mid-year book freakout, he was my favorite book boyfriend so far this year. Anyway, this is about our 2 characters, Quinn and Graham, and they are married and they have this great marriage. But they are struggling with infertility. And this book really highlights how just fucking sad and just the grief and loss and expectation that comes with infertility, and how can any relationship last through this much loss and this much hope, and then the loss of hope, the gain of hope, the loss of hope, and then just not even wanting to have hope anymore. And it's so fucking sad. And when I tell you, Graham is the perfect man. There's just this thing that Colleen Hoover does in this book. If you've read it, there's like the wooden box that they have. I mean, it's a real wooden box. I don't know why I'm putting it in quotes. That's in their closet that like is a big motif throughout the book. And it's so sweet. And I was like, this is a good idea. Couples need to pay attention to this and like take this as a cue and start doing this shit in their real life, because that was brilliant. And I fucking loved it. This book was stunning. Okay, number 2 is going to The Romantic Agenda by Claire Kann. Now, this has such exquisite asexual representation, especially because this is the first time that I've ever read a book where a character is asexual but not a romantic. So we follow our asexual main character, Joy, who is in love with her best friend, Malcolm. Now, that's just such an interesting take on it, where like she's asexual, but she's in love with him. And it's so, oh God, it's so sweet. But here's the thing. Malcolm really likes this girl named Summer. But Summer's ex-boyfriend, Fox, who's also asexual, doesn't want anything to happen to her and wants to make sure that Malcolm is good enough for her, and the whole kit and caboodle. So they go on this vacation, all four of them, all for different reasons. So Malcolm and Summer go on the vacation with Fox and Joy because they're trying to set up Fox and Joy, okay? But then Fox and Joy figure out what they're doing, and they scheme up their own plan to make Malcolm jealous because Fox looks at and sees and recognizes how much Joy loves him. So he's trying to help her get him, which of course leads to fake dating, which leads to other things, which leads to much and much and much and much and more and this and that. And it was so good. It's so good. And the asexual representation, like the way that Joy voices, the way she vocalizes, the way she puts herself on social media, like the whole thing about asexuality was so good. And also, did I mention all the characters are Black? Did I not mention that? Well, look at the cover. Stunning. And for the #1 read of this month, The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. I ate this book up. I already want to reread it. I'm freaking obsessed. It's so good. And also, look at this cover. I have 3 copies of this book now, but like, I'm obsessed. I love it. Okay, this is funny because I'm reading House of Leaves right now, and this gives like hella House of Leaves vibes, except if it was accessible, attainable, not a bajillion years long, and way more fast and fun. Like if you just took the fast and fun parts of House of Leaves and put it in here, that's what this would be. But also if it was written by Shauna McGuire. That's a convoluted summary, but also it's dead ass accurate. Okay. This is following our main character, who is a woman who's freshly divorced, and she goes to her uncle who owns this like museum for peculiarities and unexplainable things. And she goes to help him run this museum. But then her uncle ends up at the hospital, and while he's there and she's alone, she discovers a hole in this museum that leads to a hallway that leads to this like expansive universe that is horrifying and terrifying, and there's just this creepy ass magical horrific shit going on in there. And her and the barista from downstairs decide to go on a little, you know, excursion to figure it out, and it is scary. Listen, I'm not trying to tell you there's a huge plot going on. There's not a huge plot. It's just 2 weirdos, and they're weird. 2 weirdos in that fall into a magical hole and are trying to fight their way out. And it's so funny. It's so grim, dark, and funny. There is just so much shit in this book that I was like, I need to get this physical book to annotate because I was laughing out loud reading this book. I loved it. This is my kind of weird horror, and I'm so hoping that T. Kingfisher ends up being a favorite author now. I have Nettle and Bone from her, but then I also want to get the Twisted ones, and then her newest release with the rabbit on the cover. I can't remember the name. Gonna read it. I already pre-ordered it. I'm obsessed. But yes, I freaking love this book. I loved it so much. 5 stars. Okay guys, even though I did feel like I didn't read as much this month, I still had a really good reading month. Like, was it 5 or 6? 5 stars is absolutely astronomical. Like, I feel like I only get like maybe 1 or 2 in a month usually. So for this month to have that many, amazing. If you've gotten this far, leave the blood drop emoji. And if you want to subscribe, if you want to like this video, you totally can. If you want to follow me on Goodreads, Patreon, Instagram, any of those, or help support this channel in any other way, all those links are going to be down below. And all of that to say, I hope you're having an amazing day, evening, night, dusk, dawn, whatever it is you're having right now, in whatever part of the world you are having it in. And I'll see you in a video coming very soon. Bye.